Ladies and gentlemen, imagine dedicating your entire life to someone, loving them unconditionally, making sacrifices for their happiness, nurturing them with every ounce of your being, only to find yourself abandoned in your later years. The pain of rejection, especially when it comes from one's own child, is unlike any other. It is a wound that cuts deep into the soul, shaking the very foundation of your existence. It makes you question everything you once believed about love, loyalty, and family. You may ask yourself, was all my effort in vain? Did my love mean nothing? But what if I told you that this pain carries a hidden blessing? What if this very rejection is not an end, but a new beginning? It may feel like the collapse of everything familiar, but in reality, it is an invitation to rediscover yourself, to break free from emotional dependency, and to cultivate an inner strength that no one can take away. Stay with me, because this conversation will change the way you perceive rejection forever. Through the lens of Buddhist mindfulness and spiritual wisdom, we will explore why rejection is not a punishment, but a powerful catalyst transformation. It is a doorway to profound personal growth, self-acceptance, and ultimately a deeper sense of peace than you have ever known. Part 1. The pain of rejection, a universal human experience. Rejection is one of the deepest emotional wounds a person can experience. Whether it comes from a loved one, a close friend, or even society, it strikes at the very core of our being. Among the most painful rejections is being cast aside by one's own child. A parent who has poured their heart into raising, nurturing, and sacrificing for their child suddenly finds themselves shut out. The warmth of shared laughter, the bedtime stories, the long nights spent tending to a fever, all these memories come rushing back, intensifying the pain. The silence from someone who once clung to you for comfort can be deafening. The absence of a phone call on your birthday, the avoidance of eye contact during a chance meeting, or the dismissive tone in their voice, all of these cut deeper than words can express. You find yourself replaying past moments, searching for answers. What went wrong? Did I fail them somehow? Could I have done things differently? Rejection often triggers a spiral of self-doubt, grief, and even anger. It can leave one feeling abandoned, unworthy, and emotionally paralyzed. But here is where we must pause and shift our perspective. Rejection, as painful as it is, holds a mirror up to our deepest fears and attachments. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that nothing in life is permanent, not even the relationships we hold dearest. In Buddhism, suffering, dukkha, arises from attachment. We cling to people, roles, and identities, hoping they will remain constant, but life is ever changing. The child who once adored you grows up, develops their own thoughts, forms their own relationships, and sometimes distances themselves in ways that feel cruel. This is the nature of life. Yet, understanding impermanence is not the same as accepting it. Intellectual knowledge alone does not ease the ache of a rejected heart. True acceptance requires inner work, a shift in perspective that allows us to release the pain rather than be consumed by it. A powerful Buddhist teaching tells us that suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by our resistance to them. When we expect others to behave in a certain way, especially our own children, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Love, in its truest form, is not about control, obligation, or even reciprocity. It is about giving without the expectation of return. This is, of course, easier said than done. How can a parent simply let go of the love they have invested for decades? How can one make peace with the rejection of someone they once held in their arms as a baby? The answer lies in shifting our focus from external validation to inner peace. There is a well-known Buddhist parable about an old monk who carried a heavy stone wherever he went. When asked why, he replied, "This stone represents my attachment to the past. I cannot put it down because it reminds me of everything I have lost." A younger monk, noticing the burden his elder carried, gently said, "But master, the river still flows whether you hold on to the stone or not. The past is gone, yet the present continues. Let the stone go and you will walk lighter." That night, the old monk finally let the stone slip from his grasp, feeling lighter than he had in years. This story serves as a powerful metaphor for rejection. When we are rejected, we often carry the pain like a heavy stone. We replay past conversations, relive old memories, and dwell in self-blame or resentment. But must we? If we hold on to the pain, we suffer. If we release it, we begin to heal. Healing from rejection is not about pretending it does not hurt. It is about acknowledging the pain without allowing it to define us. Here are a few steps toward inner peace. 1. Accept what you cannot change. The first step to healing is acceptance. This does not mean condoning mistreatment or pretending everything is fine. It means recognizing that people, even our own children, have their own journeys. Their choices, whether we agree with them or not, are theirs to make. Acceptance is an act of self-liberation. It is the decision to stop resisting reality and to find peace within ourselves instead of seeking it from others. 2. Practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior or allowing ourselves to be mistreated. Instead, forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. It is the act of releasing resentment so that we are no longer held hostage by the past. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. It is possible to forgive someone while still maintaining healthy boundaries. We forgive not necessarily for the other person, but for our own peace of mind. 3. Shift your focus from loss to growth. Rejection can feel like an unbearable loss, but it can also be an opportunity for growth. It forces us to reevaluate our relationships, our expectations, and our own emotional resilience. Rather than seeing rejection as a statement of our worth, we can see it as a moment of transformation. It is a chance to cultivate deeper self-love, to find new sources of meaning, and to strengthen our spiritual practice. 4. Cultivate mindfulness and gratitude. Mindfulness teaches us to stay present rather than getting lost in regrets about the past or worries about the future. Through meditation, journaling, or simply being aware of our thoughts, we can learn to observe our emotions without being controlled by them. Gratitude is another powerful practice. Instead of focusing on what has been lost, we can appreciate what remains, other meaningful relationships, the beauty of nature, or even small daily joys. Gratitude shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance. 5. Rediscover your own identity. Sometimes parents invest so much of themselves in their children that they lose sight of who they are outside of that role. When rejection happens, it can feel like an identity crisis. But this can also be an opportunity for self-discovery. Who are you beyond being a parent? What passions, interests, and dreams have you set aside? This is the time to reclaim them. Whether it is through creative expression, community involvement, or spiritual exploration, rediscovering yourself is a path toward healing. Rejection will always sting. It is part of the human experience. But it does not have to define our happiness. The moment we stop seeking validation from external sources and start cultivating inner peace, we take back our power. Imagine, for a moment, the old monk standing by the river, the heavy stone finally resting on the ground. He looks up, breathes deeply, and watches the water flow. No longer burdened by the past, he steps forward, lighter and freer. So, too, can we choose to release the pain of rejection. Life continues. The river flows, and in letting go, we allow ourselves to heal. Part 2, Rejection as a Spiritual Teacher. Rejection is not the enemy. It is a teacher. In Buddhist philosophy, every hardship presents an opportunity for awakening. To be rejected is to be offered a profound lesson in impermanence, detachment, and inner strength. While the immediate pain of rejection can feel unbearable, it is often a disguised blessing, a path towards self-discovery and true spiritual freedom. Rejection is an inevitable part of life. It comes in many forms: a lover who leaves, a job opportunity that vanishes, a friend who drifts away. When we experience rejection, it often feels personal, as though it is a reflection of our worth. But the teachings of Buddhism remind us that everything is impermanent, including relationships, opportunities, and external validation. When we cling to things outside of ourselves, we set ourselves up for suffering. Instead of viewing rejection as an attack on our self-worth, we can see it as an invitation to look within. It is an opportunity to detach from external circumstances and cultivate inner peace. In ancient China, there was a mother who devoted her life to her only son. She gave him everything, her time, love, and resources, only for him to abandon her when he found success. Heartbroken, she sought wisdom from a Zen master who told her, "Your suffering is not because of your son's actions, but because you expected his love to be permanent. Love freely, but do not expect permanence. Find joy within, and no one can take it from you." She took his words to heart and spent her later years in peaceful solitude, discovering a happiness she never knew existed. Through meditation and self-reflection, she learned that true love is not about possession or expectation, but about giving freely without attachment. The lesson? True joy does not come from external validation, but from inner peace. Much of our suffering from rejection comes from the ego. The ego craves validation, approval, and a sense of importance. When we are rejected, the ego interprets it as an attack, leading to feelings of unworthiness and pain. However, Buddhist teachings emphasize that the ego itself is an illusion. We are not our successes or failures, nor are we defined by how others perceive us. When we detach from the ego and observe rejection from a place of awareness, we begin to see it differently. It is not a reflection of our worth, but a natural part of life. By letting go of the need for approval, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Many of the world's greatest spiritual teachers, artists, and innovators have faced rejection. The Buddha himself was rejected by many in his early years of teaching. Yet, instead of being discouraged, he persisted in sharing his wisdom, knowing that truth is not dependent on external acceptance. Rejection often pushes us toward a path we may not have chosen otherwise. It can be a sign that we are meant for something greater, something beyond our limited perspective. When a door closes, another often opens, but only if we are willing to let go of the past and embrace the unknown. One of the most powerful ways to deal with rejection is through mindfulness. When we practice mindfulness, we become aware of our thoughts and emotions without being consumed by them. Instead of reacting with anger or despair, we observe our feelings with compassion and curiosity. A simple mindfulness practice for dealing with rejection. Acknowledge the pain. Allow yourself to feel the emotions without judgment. Breathe deeply. Focus on your breath, anchoring yourself in the present moment. Detach from the narrative. Recognize that your mind may create stories about why the rejection happened. Let go of these stories. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. Redirect your focus. Shift your energy towards something meaningful, whether it's a creative project, spiritual practice, or act of service. When we fully accept that rejection is a natural part of life, we stop fearing it. Instead, we see it as a tool for growth and transformation. Every rejection carries a hidden gift, a chance to cultivate resilience, inner peace, and self-awareness. In the end, nothing and no one can truly reject us because we are already whole. We do not need external validation to confirm our worth. Our essence, our being, is beyond rejection. When we embrace this truth, we find a freedom that no one can take away. Rejection is not a curse. It is a blessing in disguise. It strips away our illusions and brings us face to face with our true selves. By learning to navigate rejection with wisdom and grace, we unlock the deeper lessons of impermanence, detachment, and inner peace. In doing so, we transform what once seemed painful into a powerful catalyst for spiritual growth. Part 3. The gift of self-discovery. Life is a journey of transformation filled with moments of loss and reinvention. Often we define ourselves by the roles we play, as parents, spouses, caregivers, professionals, or friends. These roles shape our identity and give us purpose, but what happens when they are stripped away? When children grow up and leave home, when relationships change, when careers come to an end, who are we beyond these roles? This is not a crisis. Rather, it is an opportunity, a sacred invitation to rediscover the essence of who we truly are. Imagine a sculptor working with a block of marble. The masterpiece does not emerge by adding more, but by chiseling away the excess. Every loss, every rejection, every painful experience removes another unnecessary layer, bringing us closer to our core. Life, in its wisdom, does the same to us. When we lose the identities we once clung to, we are left with something more authentic, more real, our true selves. But self-discovery is not an easy path. It requires us to sit in silence with ourselves, to confront our fears, to embrace solitude without mistaking it for loneliness. It demands that we look inward rather than seeking external validation. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that we begin to understand who we are beyond the labels imposed upon us. Throughout history, many individuals have walked this path of self-discovery. Their stories remind us that the greatest transformations often arise from solitude and introspection. Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, was born into wealth and privilege. His identity was predetermined, a prince destined for power and prosperity. Yet he felt an emptiness within, a knowing that material wealth could not fulfill him. In a bold act of renunciation, he left behind his palace, his family, and the life that once defined him. Through years of meditation and self-inquiry, he discovered that true fulfillment lies not in external attachments, but in inner peace and enlightenment. His journey teaches us that self-discovery often requires us to relinquish what we think we know about ourselves. It asks us to step into the unknown, to embrace discomfort, and to seek wisdom beyond conventional expectations. The 13th century Persian poet Rumi experienced profound heartbreak when his beloved teacher and friend, Shams of Tabriz, disappeared. This loss shattered him, yet from his grief, a deeper transformation emerged. He turned his pain into poetry, giving birth to some of the most beautiful spiritual verses ever written. Rumi's words continue to touch millions, reminding us that loss is not an end, but a doorway to deeper understanding and creativity. Rumi's journey reveals a truth we all must face. Pain can be a powerful teacher. When we allow ourselves to fully experience it, rather than suppressing it, we open ourselves to growth, wisdom, and a renewed sense of self. The legendary actor Anthony Hopkins has spoken openly about his journey of self-acceptance. Through personal experiences of estrangement and solitude, he arrived at a simple yet profound realization. We are who we are, and it is not our responsibility to change for the approval of others. Hopkins' words carry a message that many struggle with, especially those who have spent years seeking validation from others. His story teaches us the importance of standing firm in our truth, even when it means standing alone. True self-discovery is not about becoming someone new to fit others' expectations. It is about uncovering and embracing the person we have always been. While the journeys of these historical figures are inspiring, how can we apply these lessons to our own lives? Here are some steps to begin the process of self-discovery. 1. Embrace solitude. Solitude is often feared, yet it is a powerful tool for self-reflection. Spend time alone without distractions. No phone, no social media, no external noise. Journal your thoughts, meditate, or take long walks in nature. The goal is to tune into your inner voice rather than the expectations of others. 2. Let go of old identities. Recognize that roles and titles do not define you. If you have recently lost a job, ended a relationship, or gone through a major life transition, see it as an opportunity rather than a loss. Ask yourself, who am I beyond this role? Explore new interests, develop new skills, and redefine what fulfillment means to you. 3. Cultivate self-awareness. Self-discovery requires deep self-awareness. Observe your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. Ask yourself, what do I truly enjoy? What values matter most to me? What kind of life do I want to create? Honest reflection will guide you toward your authentic self. 4. Find strength in discomfort. Growth often comes from discomfort. Rather than avoiding difficult emotions, sit with them. If you feel lost, uncertain, or afraid, remind yourself that these feelings are part of the journey. Trust that something beautiful is unfolding, even if you cannot see it yet. 5. Seek meaning, not approval. One of the biggest obstacles to self-discovery is the need for external validation. Release the need for approval from others. Instead of asking, will they accept me? Ask, am I being true to myself? When you stop seeking validation, you give yourself the freedom to live authentically. Self-discovery is not about arriving at a final destination. It is an ongoing process of peeling back layers, shedding old identities, and embracing the truth of who you are. It is about finding peace in the unknown, strength in solitude, and wisdom in life's challenges. When we stop defining ourselves by the expectations of others, we open the door to a life of true freedom. We realize that we are not just parents, spouses, or employees. We are creators, seekers, and beings of infinite potential. The loss of a role is not the loss of self. It is an invitation to step into a deeper, more meaningful existence. So, who are you when there is no one left to validate you? That is the real question, and the answer lies within, waiting to be discovered. Part 4. How to transform rejection into growth. Rejection is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's a lost job opportunity, an unreciprocated romantic interest, or a social exclusion, rejection stings. It can shake our confidence and make us question our worth. However, rejection doesn't have to be a roadblock. It can be a powerful catalyst for personal growth. The way we respond to rejection determines whether we stay stuck in pain or emerge stronger. So, how do you move forward when the pain of rejection threatens to consume you? 1. Accept impermanence. Nothing in life is permanent. Relationships evolve, opportunities shift, and people change. Clinging to the illusion that things should remain the same causes suffering. When we embrace the impermanence of life, we free ourselves from the fear of change. Instead of seeing rejection as an ending, view it as a transition, a doorway to new possibilities. Buddhist philosophy teaches that suffering comes not from change itself, but from our resistance to it. When something or someone leaves your life, remind yourself that this is the natural flow of existence. By accepting impermanence, you begin to trust that new opportunities will arise, often in unexpected ways. 2. Let go of the need for validation. Rejection often feels so painful because we tie our self-worth to external approval. We crave validation from others, believing that their acceptance defines our value. But the truth is, your worth is inherent. It is not determined by whether someone chooses you, hires you, or approves of you. When you let go of the need for validation, rejection loses its power over you. Instead of seeking approval, focus on developing self-compassion. Speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend. Remind yourself that rejection does not make you inadequate. It simply means the situation or relationship wasn't the right fit. 3. Cultivate inner joy. One of the most powerful ways to transform rejection into growth is by nurturing inner joy. When your happiness depends on external circumstances, rejection can feel like a devastating blow. But when you develop inner peace, external events lose their ability to control your emotions. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, and gratitude help you cultivate a sense of wholeness that is independent of outside approval. Spend time in nature, journal your thoughts, and engage in activities that bring you peace. When you develop a strong inner foundation, rejection becomes just another passing experience rather than a defining moment. 4. Redirect your energy. Rejection can consume your thoughts if you let it. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, redirect your energy toward personal growth. Focus on hobbies, learning new skills, or deepening your relationships with those who appreciate you. Investing in yourself not only helps you heal, but also makes you a stronger, more resilient person. The energy you once spent mourning what was lost can now be used to create new opportunities and experiences. Number 5, practice compassion. It's easy to take rejection personally, but often it says more about the other person's circumstances than about your worth. People reject for many reasons: fear, personal struggles, misunderstandings. Practicing compassion allows you to let go of resentment and move forward with peace. Forgiveness is not about excusing someone's actions. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of anger. When you release the need for revenge or validation, you step into a higher level of emotional freedom. Rejection is not an indication of your inadequacy. It is an invitation to grow. When you accept impermanence, detach from external validation, cultivate inner joy, redirect your energy, and practice compassion, you transform rejection into an opportunity for personal expansion. Every rejection carries a lesson, and by embracing these lessons, you unlock your full potential. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. When someone walks away, it does not mean you have lost. Instead, it means life is redirecting you towards something better, something more aligned with your true self. Too often, we tie our worth to external approval, seeking validation from others to feel complete. But the truth is, your value remains unchanged, regardless of who accepts or rejects you. In every rejection, there is a hidden gift, the gift of clarity, the opportunity to realign with your own path, and the freedom to live authentically. The pain may linger for a while, but in time, you will realize that what you thought was an ending was actually a release from something that was never meant to define you. So take a deep breath, lift your head high, walk forward with confidence, knowing that your worth is not determined by someone else's acceptance. You are whole, just as you are. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Buddhist Mindfulness, and join us on this journey of spiritual growth. Until next time, remember, your peace, your happiness, and your purpose were never meant to be in someone else's hands.